Welcome to the Trailblazing podcast. And today my guest is USC women's lacrosse coach, Lindsey Munday. How are you, Lindsey?
I'm doing well, thanks. How are you?
Doing excellent. Appreciate the time today. I know you're going to be traveling pretty soon for lacrosse, so it's perfect timing to talk to you about business travel.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You've had such a storied career with lacrosse, being a two-time national champ at Northwestern as a player, the U.S. national team, the world team, and then being a coach at Northwestern, your alumni, and now the head coach at USC. It's been for such a young person, you're having a wild ride.
Well, thank you. I guess I'm not that young anymore, but being around 18 to 22-year-olds all day keeps you young. That is for sure.
Tell me about it. I always tell people I don't feel old until I get around my daughters, and then they're getting married now, and they're 26 and 27. So
yeah,
it's definitely interesting. I love the fact that lacrosse is becoming less of an East Coast sport and more of a nationwide sport. And I really, truly believe that USC's program really started that. I mean, from what I remember.
Yeah. I mean, I think, coming into an area where, again, lacrosse is, traditionally a little more, East Coast sport, but to see the growth in the last 10 years has been incredible. And I think there is something to be said of having, a program like USC to have young girls in the area, in Southern California, to have them look up to, our players and kind of see the next level of lacrosse and hopefully picture themselves, in the uniform of, a top program in Division I, and to kind of, I think it helps set, the goals for some young kids in the area. And I think having, us as a team, as a program out here, and to be able to have our girls coach, some young teams, for us to be able to put on clinics and camps and things like that I think it does help, opportunities for girls to pick up the sport, to learn, and then to, again, watch our players and hopefully aspire, to be in their shoes one day.
I think it's really key for you, for the recruits that you have coming in. I mean, you're coming from saying, I know what it's like. I know how to schedule and balance school life and lacrosse life at the highest level. So that's got to be a huge plus for you as well.
Yeah, it's funny because I think being in a non-traditional area is sort of all I know. I mean, going to Northwestern, it was a new program when I was a player there. And then, as a coach still, it was sort of, still in its infancy sort of, stages. Sure. So it's kind of all I know in terms of travel. And, at Northwestern, we flew everywhere, other than Notre Dame. And now here at USC, it's kind of similar, even our conference games tend to be flights, to Colorado or Oregon, and even up to Northern California. So it's sort of all I know in terms of traveling, kind of a decent distance to play games. But I also think there's a ton of benefits to it too, just in terms of team camaraderie. And actually, academically, I feel like our girls are able to kind of get more done on planes for their classes, do their homework, study for their tests, as opposed to bus trips, where, there's a lot going on. People are loud, you're watching movies, doing, kind of whatever. So I think there are definitely benefits to it too, in terms of team connection, team camaraderie, but also academically, the girls actually being able to kind of focus, even while traveling.
See, that's one thing I was going to ask you too, is when you travel, like you're going back east, that's a 5 to 6 hour flight. Mm-hmm. Do you tell the girls, hey, you get to do whatever you want, or do you kind of say, hey, let's get some studying done, or let's get this done, or?
No, I don't. Yeah, they're on their own.
Okay.
Obviously we have an academic advisor that helps our team through at USC. So if someone's struggling, or if we know that maybe someone's behind in work, maybe we'll, have that conversation. But generally our girls are really high achievers too. So we don't really need to tell them to study. Some of them you actually need to do the other way. You're like, why don't you watch a movie? Why don't you, kind of decompress a little bit? So yeah, no, our girls are really great about kind of having the balance and being able to do both.
Do you think that's a lacrosse thing? And I ask this because at the high school level, the girls lacrosse team for my daughter's teams, they had the highest GPA of any girls team in the school.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's just a lacrosse thing,
weird,
but I mean, the teams that I've had, again, everyone, are a lot of high achievers. And I think the girls can really compartmentalize. I'm all in lacrosse wise, but I'm also all in school wise, and I'm all in this internship that I want to do this summer. I think they are really, they're really, really bright. They're really motivated, and they want to be great in all that they do. And I think that's, an inspiring trait.
Absolutely. I mean, it goes on beyond just lacrosse too.
Mhm.
So I think that's really key. I always joked with the head coach over at Redondo is I was like, we need some dumber girls. We need some girls that are more. Yeah. We had like 4.35 GPAs, and you're like, geez, how are
Oh
you
my
doing that and
gosh.
being on a varsity team? It's crazy.
Well, I know it's interesting because I think, again, as a coach, you have to coach people differently. And I think sometimes,
Yeah.
type A personality, super, super bright in the classroom, wants to study, wants to, cross off the list. You have to, kind of coach them sometimes a little differently, and really get them out of their comfort zone of wanting to know all the answers, right?
Yep.
For things, because in sports, it just sometimes doesn't work that like that. So I think that's a challenge there. But then there's other challenges, on other sides of the ball. But I think, as a coach, in terms of those type A, those super, super, bright,
Achievers.
want to focus in school, sometimes you got to get them out of that rigid, kind of mentality, on the field.
Yeah. When you travel, how do you spend your time?
It's a great question. It depends, I guess, on, it depends on
Yeah.
the year and what time. Obviously when we're in season, I'm watching film pretty much 24/7 of just, our games, other games, our opponents, all of that. But when we're not, kind of in the thick of things, I am a big like movie, TV, buff in terms of being able to decompress a little bit and kind of shut
Yeah.
it off for a little bit. So I definitely, we'll kind of watch movies, read some books, to kind of, get my mind off of lacrosse a little bit.
Yeah.
But obviously sometimes it's a lot of film, it's a lot of scheming, it's a lot of, game planning and that kind of stuff.
That's do you always sit next to your assistants and talk pretty much, or do you
It's
sit
funny. I think it's really our travel agent does our flights. And so usually it's actually, done alphabetically. So generally I don't
okay.
sit right near the assistants. We kind of, end up mixing it with the girls, or just kind of wherever we're put. So sometimes it's nice to not, again, if you're sitting next to your assistants and talking 5 hours straight of lacrosse, I think you might both, you may both get sick of that after a little bit. So
Do you end up, I'm just curious as a coach, do you end up thinking more about like you're going to go to the East Coast this weekend?
mhm.
When you're coming back, are you just constantly thinking about, okay, that girl did that, and we did that, we got to work on that, we're work on that, or is that where you
I
try to shut it
honestly,
off?
it's hard to shut it off for me a little bit. I
Yeah.
think, again, sometimes I'm better at it, sometimes not so great. But so yes, on the flight, I definitely will be watching some film and thinking and all that. But again, right now it's the fall season. So it's really the time to make mistakes and learn and grow and sort of all those things. So I think it's a little different than spring, probably, when we're really in season. But yeah, I'm someone who like will wake up in the middle of the night like thinking about
Yeah.
a lacrosse drill. So we have that piece to it too. But again, we're just excited to go out there to have, we didn't have this last fall. We weren't
Yeah.
able to travel. We didn't actually even practice last fall. So really for us, like just the team bonding sense of like being in the airport or staying in a hotel, like all that fun stuff is really the number one thing that I think we're all looking forward to.
That'll be a good year. Yeah.
Mhm.
I'm curious when you recruit, are you how are you the one still recruiting? Are you going out and seeing the high school teams and going to the tournaments?
Yeah, it's definitely a shared responsibility with
Okay.
the entire staff. So we, kind of split up the tournaments pretty evenly and all go out there and watch games and see people, and then obviously kind of do some camps and clinics both at SC and then across the country, just to be able to work with kids and kind of have that one-on-one interaction. And then, obviously we bring them on campus and things like that. So yeah, it's definitely all of us.
That's got to be interesting for you to go back east and try and recruit kids from back east to your West Coast. It's got to
Yeah,
be
it's
good.
well, it's nice to go back. Like the travel piece of this job, I think for me is great because one, I like to travel and visit new places, but two, my family's all back in New Jersey. So to be
Yeah.
able to, kind of go for work, but also get to spend time, with them and kind of, maybe spend a day or two on the front end or back end is really, really nice. But in terms of recruiting people, I mean, for the most part, I mean, we're a spring sport, but it kind of technically starts in the winter. So it's not a bad sell to say, come to Southern California where it's 75 and sunny all the time and you can play the sport that we play outside and, the weather's great and we got the beaches. So, yeah, it's not too hard to sell for the kids, I think, coming east. Some of them obviously want to stay a little closer to home, but it's more the parents, I think really kind of wrapping their head around their kid, going
Being
across the
gone.
country and things like that. But yeah, we recruit from all over. So
See, I had the exact opposite. I got the phone call late at night saying, "Oh my God," when my daughter started playing in Maryland, and it was like my hands are freezing. It was 40 degrees. I had so much clothes on, I couldn't barely move because she grew up around here.
yeah,
So
I know. And we've tried, I mean, when we travel in the spring, we'll play, some East Coast teams and sometimes in February or March. And we've tried it all in terms of preparation,
it's just nothing.
but you just can't prepare for it. And I'll tell you what, I mean, you get accustomed to it pretty quickly out here. So
Yeah.
I mean, I grew up on the East Coast and I was tough. I am no longer as tough as I used to be. That is for sure.
No, that came along with the phone call when she went back after Christmas break, and she goes, "There's 5 feet of snow around my car." I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Get a shovel.
Start
Yep.
shoveling. That's exactly what I said. Start shoveling, and that's something. Yeah, I mean, I think. How much more West Coast growth do you see coming up? I mean, is it going to be? I know like UCLA is a club team, and I mean, San Diego State and Santa Barbara's got a really good club team, and how
Yeah,
much
I mean,
more
it's
growth?
definitely it's definitely growing more and more. I think, there are still challenges being out on the West Coast, I think, just in regards to scheduling and getting people to come out here, I think more from the East Coast, just
Yeah,
because for them it is so easy to jump on a bus and play, a number of teams right there. So
yeah,
I think that's our biggest challenge. Our universities are extremely supportive of us going to the East Coast to play, and that's great, but still getting teams out here to come, and play us is sometimes a challenge. But I think the growth, of the game in California and just on the West Coast in general is very, very exciting. And so I think, the more we continue that, the more that, our programs out here in the West are competitive and, really make waves in the NCAA and the national polls, all those things, I think that will continue to help the growth as well.
Who's that? What's the like you've been consistently the best West Coast team. Is Oregon like the next best, or what? Who do you
No,
think?
I mean, honestly, the Pac-12 is extremely strong.
Stanford,
I
yeah.
mean, Stanford won the conference last year. Colorado has been, extremely, extremely competitive. Arizona State has come on in the last couple of years. They got a new
That's true.
coach. So, really across the board, the Pac-12 is really, really growing. And, we're starting to, beat each other up a little bit, which is kind of what you want,
Yeah.
in order to grow the conference. So it's been really exciting.
It's pretty cool to I remember telling the girls, you know like, hey, there's opportunities now for at least partial scholarships and all that,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
you know
Absolutely.
versus just playing for the fun of it. So
Playing for the fun of it works too, but yeah, it's nice to,
yeah. Well, I think I'm curious how much I mean, there aren't, I guess there are, I mean, you can coach as far as opportunities in lacrosse outside of college, after college. And like Amanda Johansson I had on the show,
Yep.
is coaching at Hofstra, and you obviously are still having a successful career after. But I mean, out of the 20 plus girls that are on the team, how many are, how much do you focus on setting up their mindset for being successful after lacrosse and after college?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely, it's a huge focus. Like I said, our goal as a coach is to, set them up for success. And, obviously I think a big piece of that is, sure, networking and getting your resume and
Yeah.
doing internships and that piece. But I think the more for us as coaches that we focus on it in terms of our culture and sort of, we work with a sports psychologist with our team very, very consistently. So for the past couple of years, we do sort of hour-long weekly meetings with a sports psychologist at USC. And so obviously that's in regard to our team, and our performance and things like that. But honestly, we focus quite a bit on just personal growth, right? I'm a believer that, everyone is learning and growing and hopefully trying to improve each and every day. But I think certainly from 18 to 22 is just such a pivotal time. So in order to set them up for success, we talk about, building confidence, and we talk about, both on and off the field. We talk about conflict resolution. We talk about communication, and how to both send and receive feedback, and things like that. So we spend a lot of time on just, the growth side in order to hopefully help them grow and set them up for success afterwards as well.
Have you had any players that didn't travel well?
In terms of their performance, or just in general?
In general, like my wife hates flying.
Yeah. So we've had some coaches included that have not been huge fans of flying. Not a ton, but yeah, there have definitely been a few that just are scared. And like the second any turbulence hits, they're not in a great place mentally. So yeah, we've had a few.
I was just wondering if that ever affected. That's because everything kind of adds up, right? As far as stress of school, stress of boyfriends or friends or whatever, and then adding stress of having to do a 6-hour flight when you hate to fly just to go play a lacrosse game.
Yeah.
That's all part of the fun of being a coach.
Yes, absolutely. All of the things that affect, again, it is so interesting how, the game itself is honestly like the last piece of the puzzle, right? Instead of the first. It's, again, having a team that's connected. It's, having people be confident. It's making sure, again, you can compartmentalize craziness on your life. It is very, very interesting.
I was going to ask you too, is how do you balance life? How do you not make it just about USC Lacrosse?
Yeah. I think it was harder. Well, it's interesting. When I first got the job at USC, I was playing on the US team. And so, being a college coach, you travel a lot, and being a college coach in California, when everything's on the East Coast, you travel a lot. And then I was also adding, maybe 5 weekends a year, 5 or 6 for Team USA. And, again, that was my choice. So that was, it was tough. It definitely, it just ended up being a lot of time spent not where you live. Right. So I think luckily I had a great group of friends and that, but the personal side of things, it's just harder when you're on a different schedule than many of your like peers and your friends, where they have weekends, and that's when they, go out to eat and hang out and do all these things. And you're just like, well, I got a game, or I'm traveling, I'm out, so you do have to learn how to manage it, I think, in order to be, kind of fulfilled on that side of things, on your personal life side of things. It does take some time to kind of figure out what works best for you. And you do have to kind of be a little more, willing to like, make plans on the weekdays and things like that if you're going to be traveling. So that took a little bit, I think, to maybe understand, but it also, again, could it affect things sometimes when I was younger and traveling? Sure, maybe. But again, I would never have changed it. It was the choice I made. I loved it. I never would, go back and change those choices to travel so much, but it definitely, you have to kind of get used to what works for you in terms of when you're home and how you can maximize that time home.
Sure. And like, I know you're a big outdoors person when you have free time, do you encourage your other coaches to do that kind of stuff, or at least find an outlet?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think, again, our schedules can be really crazy and very odd, but we also have great times for our schedules where, like the month of December or even the summer, we travel quite a bit to watch games, like you had said. But in terms of office work and, can't work with the team in December or really all summer. So those moments, it's like, do whatever you want, kind of do whatever you want,
Make sure you
or
do
if
it.
they
Yeah.
have a day off during the week, it's like, don't come, we don't need to come in the office. Or if there's moments where you can leave a little earlier in the afternoon when you know you're going to be working all weekend, like trying to find the little wins in those moments, because again, you need to find ways to kind of fill up your cup. If you're giving so much and you're giving so much to your job, I think in any sense, right? No matter
Yeah.
what your job is, if you're giving so much to it, you have to find ways to, kind of find those things that kind of give you joy aside from, work, and kind of reset so that you can be all in, in your work.
See, that's exactly why I called the show the travel wins, because for me, like I'm an outside sales rep. So my territory is California and Hawaii.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm on the road 110 to 120 days a year, but pre-COVID. I'm just kind of getting back to it now, but not quite.
Right.
But I was so into my own head every time I'd be driving to my next appointment thinking, oh my God, I need to make this much in sales. I need to do this. I need to do that. Make sure maybe talk about this. That I just overplayed it. And so like I would find, let me go to a museum, or let me go find it. I'll take a different road and see something different. And that would be my win for the day. So I wouldn't have to just rely on that.
No, I'm such a big believer of that. We talked to our girls about it quite a bit. And we've had, even this year, some of our freshmen come in and they're just so stressed, about school, because, a lot of them haven't been in person so long. And we're like, okay, what are you doing? Like when you're stressed, like what is your thing that like brings you joy? What are you going to do to kind of reset? And a lot of times it's when you're stressed like that, and you have all these things on the to-do list, you end up just spinning your wheels because your mind's not really present anyways. So if you can kind of step away, which seems counterproductive, but you step away, you reset your mind, and then when you go back, you're just more productive and more efficient, at the task that you needed to do. So, we've been talking to our players about that quite a bit. Because I do think I'm a big believer in it. Yeah.
Yeah, me too. That's why you'll see me roller skating on the Strand every once in a while.
Yep. The Strand, not a bad place to be.
Yeah, well, it could be so much worse. Well, hey, I appreciate the time. I don't want to eat up any more of your time. I know you've got the big tournament coming up. What's the best way for people to follow the USC team or you or what you have going on?
Yeah, we have, well, for USC, we have an Instagram account, USC Trojans Lax. On Instagram, I'm just Lindsey Munday on Instagram. So if you follow me, you'll see some travel outdoor adventure pics. You'll see lacrosse, and you'll see my adorable nieces and nephew. So if you want to see that, you can follow me. But no, I appreciate you taking the time, and it was fun to chat.
Yeah, thank you so much, and have a great year this year.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Fight on.
Yeah, thanks, Lindsey.